Good morning, afternoon, or night, everyone. I'm Verve Coach Gordon, and you are listening to Big Picture You, the podcast where wellness practices and concepts meet practical application and real-life example. This is my first podcast. Thanks for tuning in, especially during these most challenging times. This is an introductory episode, and the next one will be out on April 13th. For now, I just want to explain a little bit about myself and my methodologies, a little bit about where the moniker Verve Coach and Verve Coaching come from. One thing we want to be sure of as the series moves forward is that we remain sensitive to the human condition. So we always want to be respectful in our discussion and content. And that doesn't mean everybody's going to agree with me all the time or even some of the time. And that doesn't mean I'm going to agree with everyone some of the time or all of the time. But I know we can have effective discussion and that I can impart some wisdom, some experience that I've had, and some great takeaways and learning experiences. Most of the content on the podcast will be relative to the Big Picture You theme. So that's Big Picture You, Big Picture Me, and for our interviewees, Big Picture Them. We're going to be looking at how these big pictures are formed from all the little details within. And some folks would call those details minutia, but I think that's kind of a negative term. I just like to think about it as all the wonderful little pieces that our big picture of life's path is formed from. When I think about my practice, three very important aspects jump to the front of my mind. And I'll explain in a moment a little bit more about what my practice entails. But those three things being, number one, positivity. I like to say personal positivity and performance of best self. Number two, belonging, relative to ours and that of others. And identity being number three. Multiple facets of identity, what I like to call oxymoronic identity facets. Foundational stuff for being well adjusted, for learning what we can control, what we can't control, where to draw the line, how to let things roll off, as they say, which goes a long way toward bringing about personal harmony and peace. A lot of what I do is about goal setting as well. So from the internal harmony, how that grows, to identifying goals, achieving goals, fulfilling your personal mission, and fulfilling that long-term vision. So a little bit more about me, Verve Coach Gordon, your host, facilitator, and moderator on Big Picture You. I am a certified professional coach that gets into life coaching, leadership coaching, career coaching, and business coaching. I am also a trainer in topics like motivation, team building, trust building. I'm also a trainer in bias management, and I get into bullying prevention education, work with a lot of schools and students. My personal coaching business includes individuals and groups and can go a lot of different directions. I've worked with people from third grade through adult, including police officers. I've worked with over 2,000 students in 50 schools, and I've worked with 60 officers in 2 different jurisdictions, along with my personal coaching clients. Throughout this series, I will have times when I'll just talk by myself and times when I will talk about myself, but I will also feature interviews and guest call-ins. And as I said earlier, you'll be able to leave comments and questions for me that I can address on future shows. I've come through a pretty interesting career transition over the last decade, coming from being a law firm IT manager to doing what I do now in the Verve Coach Gordon practice. And it's been quite a path, meeting lots of people, building a great network, and bringing me to the point of having some really wonderful content to do my podcasts with. As I said, I was an IT manager in a law firm, and I wanted to go back to school because every time I went into an office at the law firm to work on a computer, there would be a big old diploma hanging on the wall. So I figured, well, to be a really good fit here, I should get my diploma on my wall as well. So I went back to school. I decided about 2 weeks before summer semester started, and it was such short notice that the math and science I needed to get started in engineering was not available to me. Instead, I started down the path to studying some people sciences, philosophy, and anthropology, and I became very interested in those dynamics and found myself becoming more interested, especially in philosophy, than I was in computers, honestly, having worked on them for a very long time. So in my philosophy class, I really began to look at who I was, what I was about, the level of fulfillment in my life, and how I could proceed in a more fulfilling fashion on a more positive path. It wasn't long into my freshman year before I decided to flip majors into communications with an emphasis in social justice and diversity and inclusion, and take on a minor in ethnic studies, and pretty much leave the engineering program and the life as an IT manager behind in pursuit of my new path. Little did I know that path I had begun in that first philosophy class would turn into this rich life and career path as I have developed the entity of Verve Coach Gordon, the practice, and the brand. I spent hours looking for a word that I could put in front of coach after I'd studied so hard to get my coaching certificate to complement my education. And I looked and I looked. I wanted something with energy, something creative, and I came across the word Verve. Now, according to wordsmith.com, Verve, an energetic style of a literary or artistic work or performance that covers the creative. Second, a vigorous nature or liveliness that covers the energy piece. We'll be making deeper connections to these energies and how they develop from the cosmos and the power of the universal creative energies as this series goes on. I will tell you now, though, that I've identified 11 specific foundational values that I call the 11 energies of the Verve to help as guides and signposts as we move down our path of personal positivity and performance of best self. And these are pretty specific items that help us negotiate challenge, again, shake off things that we can't control, and stay focused on our mission and our vision. And I chose the number 11, one, because I wanted a rich experience more than just a few things that would imply a quick fix methodology. I wanted something much deeper and more rich that would keep revealing potential learning experiences all through our lifetime. You may have noticed that I mentioned color a moment ago, and I have done a little work in color psychology as far as assigning a unique color to each of the 11 energies. I don't go real deep into it, just enough to imply that there are feelings and emotions, as well as vibrations attached to certain colors that may be relative to behaviors brought about by the 11 energies. We'll get into that later as well. I'll probably spend an episode on each of the 11 energies describing what it's about, the color significance, and some practical application, examples, and stories. As I mentioned, there are 11 energies identified: passion, enthusiasm, compassion, openness, sincerity, truth, self-value, forgiveness, sparkle, courage, and love. As I say, these are really to be thought of as foundational values, and foundational values that work well alongside other belief systems. I have clients of faith tell me that my methodologies actually bring them closer to their faith. Even though the 11 energies of the Verve have their basis in cosmic vibration and energy, This is all really about motivation and practical application of certain methodologies to bring about more positive behaviors and better life outcomes. I have recently released the second issue of my book, 11 Energies of the Verve, A Journey of Personal Positivity and Performance of Best Self. It's available at Amazon or through me at info@vervecoach.com. If you're getting the book at Amazon, be sure to get the second issue that has the big 11 graphic on the front. The second issue is wonderfully expanded and has some really great suggestions as far as wellness activities and routines, and also has a personal energy revelation tool. Now, this is a free activity that you will fill out, take a picture of it, send it to me, and then I send you a response that includes an assessment based in the 11 energies. And that's all free of charge. Very exciting stuff, this Big Picture You podcast series. I'm looking forward to taking this quite a ways down the road. We're going to be looking at and discussing a lot of great content. We're going to be looking through various lenses and perspectives, bringing in some great guests for interviews, and of course your comments and questions from the viewers. Again, this is about practical application of creative energies based in real life stories relative what Big Picture You means and how people have built and maintained their big picture, how they've negotiated challenges, victories, and even failures. I look forward to treating you to an enjoyable listening experience every couple of weeks. The slogan I like to use in sign-off is, "Kindness is beautiful." Stay well.